Thank you for showing up. 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. Oh, that's going to get old. You holding that up like that. People that know me, I like to do free-form workshops. I'm not into handing people out and feeding you information and all that, because everybody in here has information to share. We've shared a lot of information just sitting here talking because we both showed up early. You know, that's what we need to do. I like to say, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just got to find the right car that fits. And what's happening in California and Connecticut, well, I can go to Connecticut and your Grange is a lot closer than their Granges. And they're still doing different things because they have to. You know what fits your town, your area, your community, your region. So that's what you need to do. Focus on that. Find the need. Now, I do have some papers somewhere I want to hand out. For those that didn't make the workshop with Jeff Vinton, with the Rural Mines and our collaborator, I've got those paperwork to give out. You can download them, print them right off the websites. We're really working with Rural Mines about mental health awareness, suicide prevention, those things. So I'll give those papers out. I have a few. I try to grab a handful and I use some of them. But that's what we do. We're trying to work together in our communities. And it's interesting that we have, how long has your Grange been in existence?
Let's see, one of them since 1929.
Okay.
Affiliate, the other since 1891.
There we go, 1891. Now you like Robert, Bob? Rob, gotcha, buddy. Okay, so 1891. Excellent. Ono Grange, unfortunately 3 years ago, burned down in one of the big fires in California. So they're in the process of rebuilding. Sharon, your Grange has been around
since 1905.
1905. They've never owned a Grange Hall. Okay. My Grange Hall in New Jersey was built in 1894. It's the oldest Grange Hall in the state, where its original location. So, and I'm sure we can go Granges that are younger, older, have your own hall, rent your hall out. I know Patrick in the back, they're rebuilding their Grange Hall from basically, they just took the doorknob off and they're putting a new Grange Hall under it. It was easier that way. So everybody's doing different things in their communities. That's what we need to realize. How are we doing this? What are we doing? What are we doing to help our communities? Different segments of our communities. Again, you said before the fire you had 700 people in your town, roughly.
600 and something.
600. Now they're down to 97. Well, what do you do in that case? Well, they probably got most of them. But how do you now work with that? And they're working with it. Adapt and overcome. Take what you got and move forward. Patrick, you guys, I don't know what your membership is.
Right now, when I started at the Grange 6 years ago, we had 29 people in it. And as of this month, we have 60 in it.
60.
And we're growing every day.
You said
right?
60?
60.
And we're, right now, we're in a process. I've made up some flyers and I've gone around to most of the businesses now, and we've pulled in 3 businesses, and hopefully we'll get the rest of them.
Now,
we're a small town.
Define pulled in 3 businesses.
If you notice on your Grange membership, you got you can bring businesses in.
Right.
They're not allowed to vote.
Right.
Right.
You put a little sticker on there.
Associate numbers.
Yeah, associate members.
Okay.
And then they're not allowed to vote, but you can give them a little Grange sticker stick in their window, and they're part of the Grange and part of your community. And
Right. That's what I was hoping you're going to bring up. So you heard what he said, right? They're getting the businesses to join as associate members, and then they're saying, well, they're Grangers, they support us. We need to support them. I'm a big believer in shop local, support local, take care of your local people first. And the main reason is when you go out and ask for things, big corporations aren't going to support you as much as local places are. And that's how you say thank you back then was, hey guys, we're here to support you. And look at it this way, especially, you guys are great at this. You guys need to think about this. And Sharon knows me well enough to realize I just wade into problems, or I just throw problems out there and see what sticks, just because sometimes I need a good laugh. So I'm trying to think. I don't know the Granges in here. Okay. So I had, well, in theory, as a director, I'm supposed to report to the National Grange Executive Committee, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a year. I do one. You want to see what I'm doing? Go to Facebook, see what I'm doing. Everything's on there.
Yeah.
So,
You leave a good trail.
well, so you need to think about this. You need to think about this. What is your Grange's economic impact in your community? As a community service organization, what is your economic impact? Now, here's the example. Now, I told them the name of the Grange was Goldfish Grange. Now, the only reason I said that's because I was eating a bowl of goldfish at the time when I was writing my report. So we have Goldfish Grange. Now, they'll do 7 fried oyster dinners a year. They'll feed, 12 to 1,400 people to sit in at a dinner. So take that number. I'm not good at math. So 7 times 1,400 at $30 a ticket. Dave's working on that for me.
I'm Facebooking you.
Oh, okay. So you have that number. Okay, so you take that number. They're putting that back in the community. They're not keeping it. They give it to the fire companies. They're all the different. How they do it is, each oyster dinner is for one of the local fire companies, and they get that profit. I think it works out to about, after everything, I don't know, 30,000, something like it. It's a big number. It's a big number. So take that times 7. Okay, that's a nice number. That's a nice economic impact in the local community. But what we don't think about is, well, you had to buy the stuff. You got to buy the oysters, buy the stuff for pepper cabbage, all that. So now we're putting more money back in the community. Okay, the Grange has insurance, electric bill. I think they got gas bill, all the other bills. So when you think about the whole economic impact that Grange has in its community, some of them are pretty big numbers. I think it worked out by the time I figured it out, and I called a friend of mine who was a member of that Grange, and it was about a $500,000 impact in the community.
Wow.
Total economic impact. Now, I am not an economist, and when it comes to economic studies, I am not the person. Because when I figure my checkbook out, if you write a check for $47.32, just subtract 48 because you figure at the end you got to have money.
Evidently it works.
But what's that?
Evidently it works.
Well, some days, yeah. Well, I can tell people, the IRS ever comes at audit me, I'm saying, just take me to jail. Let's save everybody the stress and aggravation in a trial.
Right.
But I want you to think about that, what your economic impact is. Because that is a community service because you're supporting local businesses. You're supporting local people. Now, that's a big number. That's a big number. But I could also take, I don't know, what's your Grange down in Ohio, Sharon?
Pike.
Pike?
Pike Grange.
Okay, Pike Grange. I don't know what your economic impact is. But I'll guarantee every Grange here is probably at least a $2,000 to $3,000 economic impact, even if you're just there meeting around the table. Because you got to have insurance, you got to pay electric bill. Everybody's doing things. And the reason I bring this up is, okay, come up with that number. And then when you go to try to apply for a grant, or you go to your local Chamber of Commerce saying, hey, Mr. Chamber of Commerce, here's what I'm giving back to the community. I need a little help here. I need a couple favors. I like to ask for favors. Because there's a guy in Goldfish Grange, and if you knew him,
Yeah.
that man could bargain better than anybody I knew. I don't think they paid for anything. Because what he'd do is, hey, you know what? I need this. I'll give you about 4 tickets to an Easter dinner. What's it costing him? Nothing. You know, and they had a big parking lot. Come on in. Big parking lot, and one of the local tree trimming companies for the electric company to trim the wires and all. They used their parking lot. They didn't charge them, but they just maintained the parking lot. I think they went in and repaved it, restoned it a couple times, you know. But think about that. What is your economic? I can't imagine what Avon Grange's impact is in Montana. As much as you folks do in the community, as much as Joyce goes out and buys after Christmas all the stuff for a year, you know. But think about that, folks. So, you know, it sounds strange, like we've never thought of that aspect before. You know, we're not even going to go into what Phil's Center County impact is, because they own a fairgrounds and I can't even calculate those numbers. What's that?
Want me to do a quick Google for you?
Do that for me. It's going to surprise everybody how much money Center County, Pomona Grange, and Grange and Center County do. But the point I'm trying to get is, think about these aspects of it. As Patrick does, and thanks for bringing that up, you know, get your local businesses involved with your Grange Hall. You know, Sharon, I know you guys, amazing things you folks do.
Well, I mean, we do as much as we can. Identity is a really tough thing when you don't own a building with a sign on it. So that's one of our biggest challenges, and the fact that, you know, in the neighboring town, there is a Grange with a Grange Hall. And so people tend to confuse, and I find myself many times explaining, oh no, that's Wide Awake's roast beef dinner. They put on a good dinner, but our Clifton Springs Grange chicken barbecue is really good. You know, I think we're making progress, but that's a tough one.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of Avon's fundraisers go towards Avon Volunteer Fire Department too, which is, they need it desperately.
Oh, absolutely.
So our local newspaper says our fairgrounds has an annual economic impact of 16 to 20 million.
Yeah, 16 to 20 million
Wow.
is their economic impact. But now you got to understand, they also have shows there every weekend.
3 to 4 horse shows there every weekend.
Yeah.
From May through September usually.
Yeah.
Our fair itself is 3.1 million.
Yeah.
And the grounds operate annually. We're only 20 miles away from Penn State University, so we've become a tailgating site. We partner with Penn State for off-site non-alcoholic tailgating. We have dog shows there. We have one of the largest equine arenas on the Eastern Coast. Yeah, come play.
So
It's finding those community partnerships. This year, selling revenue, we started selling pre-sale tickets to the fair at a discount, and then each group that sells gets $2 per ticket back to the group. This year we gave away over $60,000 back to local groups for them pre-selling tickets.
So the point is, think outside the box at times of how can we work with other groups to help them make money, help you make money, and everybody wins. Delaware State Fair, now Delaware State Grange, their one fundraiser of the year is their chicken booth at the State Fair. They, what they do, again, to help Granges make money, is if a Grange supplies cakes, pies, that stuff, they buy each cake and pie for so much money. But they also partner with the local 4-H groups, I think the FFA, but I'm not positive on that one. And when the kids come in to volunteer to work at the food booth, they then make a donation back to those 4-H chapters and FFA chapters, because they need the help. The chapters need some cash, so everybody wins. Yes, ma'am.
Can I go back and ask you some kindergarten questions?
I like kindergarten questions because that's about where I'm at on a Saturday.
Going to go back to basics. When
Yes.
sending in a report, you're talking about that one single page that says our Granges and who won, correct? When we're digitally emailing you
Yeah.
our state report.
Your state report, yeah.
That's that one single.
One sheet should have first 3, 4 places, and
Correct.
yes.
And then at one point, I had thought correct me please, I want to get this.
That's fine.
That the winning book could also be emailed in so that
It
you
can.
could send it to the judges ahead of
No,
time.
no. They are judged here at national session.
They are judged.
Yes, ma'am.
Get that.
Yes, ma'am.
And so when they are emailed to you, how does the hard copy get to
I print them out myself.
you? Do.
Mhm.
Okay. Great. And then how many, you were talking one time about really streamlining this down to instead of these big, thick scrapbooks at one point. What's your new
Well-
position on that?
No, my position hasn't changed on that. My position is, one, I cannot tell a state Grange how they do their community service books. That's up to that state. I cannot tell them how to do that. I have suggestions, and I send the suggestions out. Each year the judges give me, hey, you might want to look at this. I'll get to you, Patrick. But I can't tell a state Grange how to do their community service. That's up to them.
So that's why on the table, we'll see a great big one, little ones, maybe
Yep.
one sheet. Okay, because
Yep.
we have that
Right.
freedom.
Right.
The next section in community service is when you decide to choose a fireman, an educator, blah, blah, blah. Did you want, is that not included in our community service report, or you want that?
That's a separate form.
You want a separate, I know
That's
it's
a
a separate form, but you want a separate book
Yep.
for those as well?
Yep. Because those I send to the judges also.
Okay, so
Different
that's
judges.
actually separate.
Those are judged ahead of time.
Actually, that's not even a book, that's usually just a form.
Well, it's like a page. Usually it would be the information page and then supportive information, articles, that type of thing.
Can I ask, is that form on the website?
Should be.
Should.
I checked earlier and I can't remember whether it was or not. I think that's one of the forms that is on the website.
Okay, and then when we submit our hours,
Mhm.
make this a cumulative, we put in our hours, it was my understanding that allows, that hours accumulated allows us to brag about to apply for grant money.
I would use that. Absolutely, I would use that.
Right, and deadlines, I don't know if I'm just an airhead, but they do seem to shift. Did we-
Deadline. No. I argued I did not want to change my deadlines because my issue is with your community service books, they aren't usually judged till your state session. So you've got Delaware who will meet the first weekend in December. You've got Oregon, Washington, Liz. You're in June. California's when? September.
Michigan's the third week of October.
And then we have, I think it was Connecticut, no.
Connecticut's
Con-
third week.
Yeah, Massachusetts was literally 2 weeks ago. So I can't put a deadline on the community service books till they get here. Now, the firefighter, teacher, police officer, I need those early enough so I can get those judged, to get the plaques made, to get them here. But I think that deadline is like October 16th or something like that. Where the other departments can set their deadlines earlier, that's fine. Mine, I can't because of the way state Grange sessions run. It's just, problem with Delaware, their book sits for almost a year. Yeah, it's the way it is.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
I want to make sure, Bonnie, any other questions?
Not yet.
Okay, perfect. I like it. Patrick?
Crestwell Grange has had a tough time with the community service book the way we have it now. But my recommendation is put everything that you do in that community service book, even after it's judged, break it down so it can be judged the way that Nationals wants it judged. But keep everything in that book, because let me tell you what, that's the biggest recruiter of Rangers that we have, is that book.
No, absolutely.
Set it out at every event, and it works well.
I've said that forever. You should take your community service books whenever you have a dinner, an event, your Grange Hall, just throw them out there because everybody's got a closet full of community service books, right? Because you never throw them away, heaven forbid. Well, put them out. Let the community see what you're doing, what you've done. That's such a great idea, Patrick. And
Pete, you're of the year to September 1st this year because they consolidated all the deadlines for.
well, they did that without consulting me,
Well, you can talk about.
and I have talked to the boss lady about that. You ought to consult with people before you change your deadlines.
What are the prizes? So,
You know what? Great question. And I never remember till we get back and we write the checks.
okay,
Because I don't know, for some reason, Loretta and I always debate that. But I don't want to quote a price and it not be right. You
so
know,
is there like a budget for you and that you have to see, I mean, you can use that based on?
here is my budget. Now, good luck finding it. I can't even find it. But my budget is this. We send to State Grange $250 for, if you do the report, you get 25% of your subordinate granges to report to the State Grange. We will send you a check for $250. So my budget is this. We have what, 34 State Granges, 35 State Granges? So take 34 times 250, there's my budget. Period.
Yeah.
So in the rare year, if all State Granges report, I'm scrambling to get money for plaques, which usually means I'm paying for them. Okay, I don't have a budget of that. Everything I do comes out of my pocket. I don't care, I'm not saying that for whatever reason, but people ask me, what's my budget? Well, there's my budget. So, you know,
So let's say you have, $250 and you had 20 Grange reports, you've got a little extra dough, so then you can take that and divide
Nope.
between first, second, third?
Nope. No, that's all. Well, in theory, yes. In theory, yes. But I forget what the breakdown is on that, to be honest.
I saw how you did your checkbook register, so I just.
Yeah. Well, no. Loretta handles all that for me. You know, she handles
So
that.
the question is, because when I go to my state session and I judge them and I say, yeah, you've won best of show, I need to take that with me to national.
Mhm.
What for? What are we gonna get? I don't know what the answer is to tell you.
Well, I'll let you know, but yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so I didn't have an answer and I just said, no, just give it to me.
Yeah. Trust me.
Trust me.
Trust me.
Trust me.
Well, it's interesting. I had a phone call earlier this year from a very irate Granger in Virginia who, I forget what they did place last year. I always sent him a check for. He was irate because the last time they won or last time they placed, you know, they got a check for like $4,000, something like that. Remember when, don't forget, many years ago when God was young and, you know, man swung from trees and all that good stuff, National Grange and Sears Roebuck or
That's right.
somebody had a partnership. So Sears and Roebuck was putting a lot of money into community service programs. So they were doing, you know, if you had the national winning community service program, they were sending you a big check. So that's where that came from. So I don't have that. I don't have that budget.
Right. Yeah, that is all.
What's that? That was not as far along ago as we thought it was. But yeah, that was for several years, and I'm not sure it was Sears. It could have been somebody else. You know, because don't forget, we also had a deal with Kimberly Clark, or
Didn't Sears give somebody a pool?
I have no idea
So
about
that
that.
well dried up.
I have no idea. Oh, that's been gone for years. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll be right with you, Claire. I got you.
I wanted to share two ideas. Is
Okay.
that okay. The first one is that if we're fortunate enough to have a Grange Hall, it's supposed to be the center of the community. So when I took over as president of my Grange Hall, I said, how do you expect our Grangers, who probably the average age is about 80, to get into the Grange Hall? They can't get up the steps. It's an old grist mill that was converted in 1940 to a Grange Hall. And they said, you know, we've tried for decades to put a ramp into this place. You can't because it's built in a right of way. And I said, you know, I worked for the Senate, and I said, prior to ADA and writing the ADA, I said, you can't tell somebody they can't put in a ramp. There's got to be a workaround. So in less than 3 months, we got all the approvals to put in a ramp. The Connecticut State Grange Foundation actually gave us our final check because they have a program at the Connecticut State Grange Foundation to incentivize Granges to take care of their buildings. So every other year, you can get a $1,000 donation. Our ramp costs $10,000. Within weeks, we raised the $10,000, including the person that put the ramp in donated $2,000. So it's made our Grange now a community center again that people can get into. So I would encourage you in your states to look into programs like this, because again, I happen to be taking a webinar by Terry Fazio, and she just mentioned these different grant opportunities, and everybody in my Grange kind of looked at each other and said, we didn't know this. And so that was one thing. The second thing that we do every year is what we call a community needs assessment. We sit down, we call it a first selectman, but it could be the mayor or your chamber, or we call it Economic Development Commission in our little town. And we ask them, what do you think needs to be done that isn't being done? And I think we've come up with two really good partnerships. As you know, we're the biggest networkers. And the first one was that since the pandemic hit, nobody has been retiring by US code American flags. So we said, we'll do that. So we reached out to the American Legion, to the Lions, to the Senior Center, to all the different groups and said, we'd like to retire American flags. The first time we did about 50 in a fireplace, actually on my property. The last three, we just had one last weekend. We did over 1,000 American flags in a humongous bonfire. And we created now a video of it, and we got signage and stuff for it. So that was something we said, we don't want to step on any toes. And the Legion says, if you'll coordinate it, we'll help you collect the flags. We put drop boxes. And the head of one of the American Legion posts said, my nephew needs an Eagle Scout project. And I said, well, I've seen this thing that I've been dreaming about. It's a box about 4 feet by 6 feet that you can collect used American flags in. So they're now, so at our last Grange event, we raised, just passing the hat, $500 towards it. And afterwards, a woman came up to me and said, you tell me what it's gonna cost and I'll write a check for the difference. So that was one thing that came out of the community needs. The second thing that came out was nobody seems to be honoring veterans. We all put lip service to it, but nobody really seems to be doing it. So we started a Veteran of the Month program. My Grange was not thrilled starting it, I'll be honest, because they thought it was going to be a lot of work. We just had our 18th, our 19th is next Sunday, and we are booked through December of 2023 with veterans. And so we have an associate business that has underwritten the entire cost. They buy the shadow boxes. They buy only US made embroidered American flags. They don't like the little cheesy flags from Walmart. And we get the Lions, the two Lions clubs to do the food. And we use the Senior Center because they have the flagpole and the accessibility. We started this prior to our ramp going in. And it's just been a great partnership. And it's gotten, I think, our Grange rejuvenated to see that there is. And so actually we're rejuvenating another Grange in our area, and they're now talking about starting a similar program. So my message on that is go out, do a needs assessment, ask people, what do you need in your community that's not being done? And we're not the only ones. If your Grange is struggling with membership, we're not the only nonprofit struggling with membership. Everybody is struggling with membership. And what's been interesting to us is that some of the veterans we've honored have actually been younger. I'm 62. Some of them have been younger than we are. And it's a great way. You can just have your applications out there on the table. It's very subtle. And it's a nice way to expand your footprint in the community and let people know that your Grange is relevant. And I'm really pleased. Phil Prelli was actually one of the big people that supported me when I pushed this at our Grange and got a little pushback.
And what Dave does is, National Grange will send you certificates.
Yep.
From the National Grange. And what Dave does, he'll send Loretta a year's worth of names, so she can just send him certificates, and he's got them on hand.
Color coded by, like, if they were like in Vietnam, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. We've actually, I didn't even know, and nor did I think Loretta, there was actually a Mexican border war. Who knew? It's when the Germans got the Mexicans to attack the United States during World War II. And we had a Mexican, I studied history, I never even knew about it. And so we kind of scratched our heads and we decided to go with a World War II certificate because it was about the same time period. But Loretta is phenomenal. And then if I have a hiccup, we had a death of one of our honorees before we honored them, and the family didn't want to go through with it. So Loretta quickly, and I mean quickly, I sent it like on a Friday night, 8 o'clock Eastern. By Monday morning, it was literally there, in our Grange mailbox.
So, I have a question. So are you saying these are the shadow boxes you give somebody every month?
So the way,
Go ahead.
yeah, the way we decided to do it, and we partnered with the American Legion, our program. So it's Riverton Grange hosts,
Okay.
and then we list our now 9 partners because Daughters of the American Revolution just joined in with us. And so on the first month, you select your veteran. So we get all the nominations. We send them to our local American Legion. We ask them to vet the people to make sure that everything is good. Never want to be embarrassed. So they vet person, yes, that person's good. So our ceremony lasts maybe 20 minutes. And so because of the age of some of our attendees, we start inside. We have a little program. We have a woman that sings, and she's actually a Connecticut Grange talent winner this year. And so then we go outside, and the American Legion Honor Guard raises the flag. They have taps playing, and they do the 3 rifle salute with the blanks. And then they collect those spent shells, and then they'll go into the flag the next month. So the next month when you come back, a new person's flag goes up, that past recipient's flag comes down. The flag is brought inside, it's folded in an absolutely silent, very impressive ceremony. And then the head of the Honor Guard, Color Guard unit will take it and on behalf of the President of the United States, present it either to the veteran or a representative of the veteran in a nice ceremony. And then the veteran that's now being honored, either he or somebody on his behalf will get up and he or she, we've honored 1 female so far. We just got our 2nd approved female nominee from Desert Shield, Desert Storm, so we're excited about that. And so then the flag's folded, and so we frame Loretta's certificate, and we give them the shadow box. We have a carrying case. It's like a cloth bag with the American flag on it, and we present the certificate on behalf of our president, Betsy Huber, to the veteran of the family. We present the shadow box, and either before or after the ceremony, I explain how to use the shadow box. And then we usually stick in a Connecticut State Grange pen in the tote bag that carries it. And then afterwards, we have refreshments. And sometimes people will be there 90 minutes to 2 hours after. They just want to sit around and chat. And another enhancement that's recently started, we've told the veterans, if you want to bring something, we'll set up a table. You can showcase anything. So they'll bring in these pictures from like the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, of military service, medals. One of our veterans was actually shot down during World War II, and he was captured, and he brought in some stuff about that. I mean, we've had some tearjerkers. And another one of our best, I'm sorry to take all the time, but one of our best was we honored this Vietnam veteran, and his wife said, I want to speak. And she said, when my husband came home from Vietnam, he was swore at, he was spit at, he was treated like crap. And she said, we need to do this for all veterans and honor them. And we try to encourage young people, because I always say every month, you young people, you're like in your teens or 20s, you're going to carry these stories for the next 80, 90 years. You've got to remember what you heard here, because we don't have a draft anymore, not everybody. And usually in the group, you ask who was in the military, it's getting smaller and smaller nowadays. So I think it's a great program, merging the Patriot program with this program, and any Grange could do it. We actually have, we have businesses waiting in line that want 100%, and our first sponsor actually doubled their donation to 200% of the cost of the entire year program just because they wanted to keep it. And so it's a great deal if you get out there and chat it up.
So talk to Dave afterwards.
Yeah, you went into more detail than what I wanted, but I appreciate that.
So talk to him afterwards. It's a great program. It's a great program. Claire.
Our community service in our state, we are in the middle of the fair September 1st. All of the western part, there's 6 Granges over there. And we talked about changing our deadline for our community service books to July 31st. And some say, well, how's that gonna work? Because you're gonna not get that fair time, and can you estimate how many hours that fair is gonna be? Me, I think that you cannot have all those fair hours, and we may be short for this year, but next year you'd have them.
Right, right. You're going to have an issue the first year you change things around, no matter what you do. But if you want to change it, change it.
Well, it's hard for the people to get their hours and their
Right.
community service book in, and even with the short form that I instituted, they still can't even collect the hours and whatnot. So I talked it over with a couple of the gals at our state Grange, and that's what we came up with. But I thought I would ask you about it.
You got to make the changes you want to make for your state, what you think is best. Yeah, that's the best. If you think that's the best thing to do, that's what you need to do.
Because we have a lot of community service hours for as many.
You do. You folks do. Absolutely.
Montana had, I think we had like 27,000 or
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
With 300 people.
Oh, yeah. Anything else, folks? Chad, you're awful quiet.
Just taking it all in,
No problem.
reflecting on Dave's being a paragon of collaboration and, digesting all the programming he's talking about, and really impressed by that.
So we had an interesting speaker this year at the New Jersey State Grange session. We always have the FFA come in and speak. Well, this year we lucked out. We had the president, because he only lived about 20 miles from where we had our convention. And he said a very important thing. Now, he had done his homework, and he really realized and really looked into what the Grange stands for, what they stand for. And his basic statement was, well, two things. One, why aren't Granges going out and talking to these FFA kids? Because we offer what they want to continue after they age out. And his point was, if you're having something at your fair, something at No Grange or wherever, don't forget, FFA kids look for community service hours. So if you need help, call your local chapter and say, hey guys, can you send me some people over to help? Because that's what one of the things they need to do is get out in the community. So if you're going through, looking for people, call your FFA chapters. They'll send some kids over. You don't have to pay them either. They'll work for you to help build their community service hours up, and it gives you more people to help you accomplish a goal. And it's free. And you're building a great relationship now with your local FFA chapters. Chad.
I don't want to go off on too much of a diatribe about this, but I hear the same subject coming up again and again regarding our community service. And there's an old Chinese proverb that the symbol for crisis is a single brushstroke from the symbol for opportunity. And 50 years ago, if the Grange had been approached by many collaborators, the response might have been, look what we're doing. Why would we? Why? We can each do this. There's enough for everybody. But as the world has evolved and technology has replaced the telephone, now it's all digital and online, everybody's in the same boat. So, use your tools and look out for people like Dave and Sue and all the other great programmers here. If you see a collaboration going on in another area like Connecticut and you live in California or Idaho, call those same people that are in your area and say, hey, there's a really successful collaboration going on. Can we do this? And I do this pretty often. I coach everybody's programming from everywhere. And I would say 99% of the time, there's not only a willingness on those other sides, but there are resources that we don't have and people with skill sets that we don't have. And we end up bringing in new membership and build ties that in 25 years we'll be talking about, maybe even in this very same room, that blossomed into beautiful veterans honor ceremonies and collaborations with everything. So just keep. What's that? Yeah. We'll still be out there.
Yeah.
We'll be wearing these
No.
t-shirts.
Yes, Bonnie.
I was listening to his sermon, and what a wonderful opportunity veterans have traumatic stress to also invite somebody who is counsel, or, they are more than happy and willing to come to talk to them. And you have these veterans right now to deal with mental illness, mental issues, emotional stress. And you can also bring in that part of Rural Minds right there, right into that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Reach out to your local VA or whatever your whatever group is out there. I agree 100% with that.
Yeah.
Mini sermon. Jeff Linton was so impressive the other day.
Yeah.
And I've told this to my state president already. We have already started working on that initiative. We are setting up a Lions Club that's going to be called the 988 Lions Club of Connecticut. And they are going to partner with a Grange we're trying to rejuvenate. We've already recruited, you have to have 5 people to have a Lions Club branch. And so we've recruited 2 of the 5. And they are going to take that Rural Minds presentation. They're going to offer the QPR training, and they're going to take it around to our Granges to offer it and use it as a recruitment tool to it. And your thing just gave me another idea of tying in the veterans into that. But again, it's about collaboration in trying to find people that have the way to do it. But we didn't want this one Grange to turn their charter in. And we've been trying to find a program that they could latch onto. And so I think this has the potential to do that. And Jeff and I have already been talking about getting him engaged in it, because he was just such an impressive person with what he's trying to do. And again, trying not to step on other toes, but to fill in where service isn't being given. And the final thing to the California people, we had this bizarre resolution at our state Grange, that I think it was at our state Grange, about keeping the burial rights the same at Arlington National Cemetery.
Oh, okay.
And I had no clue. I used to work for the federal government, and so I went out and researched it. Well, one of the proposals is to open the equivalent of an Arlington in California. And I don't know if you know or not, they don't have enough people to do military honors at funerals. So in New York State, a group started up by the past international president of Lions, who's also a UN delegate, started this nonprofit that they provide military honors. There's actually a nonprofit, but it'd be another group that Granges could partner with. And if anybody wants more information, but if we're going to have another Arlington out in California, the Grange ought to get behind this initiative and work with people, because goodness knows in some parts of California there's a lot of land. We opened a new one down in San Diego County, but there's limited land down there.
Any partnership's a good partnership. Veterans. If you
Well, we partnered with Quilts of Valor.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, if you see a need, fill it. Absolutely. The mental health issue, all branches, any group, reach out. It's just something we need to attack. I know the state of North Carolina, which Grange is it? Has the funeral cortege for any police officers killed in line of duty in North Carolina. And one of the Granges has taken that over to make sure that carriage and horses have a stable to Grantham. I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, they've taken that over. It's need to be done, and they stepped up to the plate and took that over. So there's a Grange that recognized here's something that needs to be squared away, and they did it. You know, and Granges can do that. You know, as I said, everybody knows what your needs are. Don't be afraid to ask. You know, fill that void. You know, we're great at filling voids. You know, we've got our friends in Indiana. They've been quiet. You know, Indiana's doing some good stuff. You guys do some great stuff. You're a whole totally different aspect. You know, you know.
Processing everything.
Yeah. Nah, it's been a long week and we're all processing
The
stuff.
ideas that are coming that trigger other ideas that you can do. You know,
And that's what I hope happens here. You know, this might not work, but you know what? As Dave said, but this triggered an idea here, or Bonnie, you know, threw a great idea out there.
You know, one of the things that people become afraid of when you talk about community service is somehow they get this bubble over their own head saying, oh, I don't have the time to do this. People, if you network, you don't do any work.
Oh, absolutely. See, I'm a firm believer. I'll be right with you, young lady. I'm a firm believer everybody needs a cause in this world because everybody wants to give back for something. I don't know what that cause is. It could be, you know, Sharon was a librarian. She might really enjoy going and reading to, you know, 5-year-olds. Fun time. I know they're cute. They don't bother you. They believe everything you're saying. You can read any story to it. It don't matter. You know, but they're cute because they all want to tell you. Because they all want to tell you a story. You know, I mean, I was a police officer. I was a school resource officer. Trust me, kindergartners, first graders, they're great. They will tell you anything you want to know. You got to listen to them. They're fun. But that's a fun cause. Yeah, read stories to kids. You know, I don't know what the cause is.
So Pete, we talked on the floor about having, we did words for thirds, the dictionary programs, and, you know, a lot of communities are actually moving to now laptops, you know, in that resource and teaching kids. Is there any great ideas yet that is the one, we talked about one service project as a nation that we could get together and do? Is there any ideas floating around here?
The only one now is Rural Minds.
Yeah.
You know, because again, I've said for years that, you know, I don't know, I can't, you know, I don't know what Granges need. And what I think they might need, they might not need. But I think we can all agree mental health is something we all need.
You talking about another contest?
Meaning,
Get your ideas and how it would function for us as a national, and whoever wins gets the year of that. It's a year or two of that.
let's talk. Let's flesh that out. Yes, young lady.
But just sort of piggybacking on something you just said, that I'm fairly new, I'm 5 years in the Grange, but the community service that's going to work for our Grange has to do with our community, as we're all saying.
Oh, time out 1 second. When you say your Grange, and I don't know why people never do this.
10 miles.
Tell me the name of your Grange.
10 miles in between.
There we go. I like it.
But my picture is that I'm willing to do something that I'm really interested and passionate about. Because community service has to serve the people doing it as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And that, I think, is an incredible model of the Grange, that we do what makes sense, not just in our community, but in my heart and mind and my home. So I really think we need to do a lot of listening in our circle of that we're talking about. Well, what do we want to do? And I could back that. You know, I could do that.
Yeah, you might come up with a community service project, and your Grange is going to look at you like, why do you want to do that? Well, because I do.
Right.
And you might be the only person that does it. But that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. You know, I have come up with some ideas, and people think I got a third eye in my head. And they look at me and go, really? Yeah, let's give it a shot and see what happens. You know, so if there's something you are passionate about, and obviously there's something in your mind you are passionate about that your Grange isn't doing, just go back and tell them, hey guys, I want to do this. I'm not asking for money. I'll be with you. I'm asking for money. I'm not asking for money. I just want your permission to do this. Now, understand, in my world, your permission means I'm going to do it anyway, but I just wanted to give you a warning before I did it. You know, I'm a nice guy that way.
Well, if I'm going to say that the Grange is sponsoring this, I need them to agree to
You got to let them know.
it's consistent with Grange.
Just make sure it's in the record somewhere. You talked about it. Yeah, it's close enough. You know, yes, Trish.
How do you stay off from naysayers? So let's say she wants to, I want anybody, you want to start a project, you want to start something. How do you get over the naysayers in your brain that are kind of like,
Well, we don't, we all
We already
know what
we
the list
already
of
did
whys
that.
are.
That's
and
all
not
we
that
did.
many to list.
We already did.
How do you get past, get past the bell?
You know, I adopted a philosophy a long time ago. Just because you're talking don't mean I'm listening. And if you got something you want to do and the naysayers saying, hey, then do me a favor and don't help me. Just do me a favor and stay out of my way. You know, because, and I believe this, and Loretta says this, there's a new wave going on in the Grange. We have a whole new perspective. We have a whole new enthusiasm. We have a whole new way of doing things. And I said this to the state presidents. I said, look, you got a choice. You can lead, you can follow, or you can get out of the way.
Yep.
Because your members are going to make you get out of the way if you're not leading properly. If you're a cork, it's a problem. Now, again, what are you going to do, fire me?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't get paid. No, fire me. It don't matter to me. But sometimes people need to hear that too. Yeah, because we've been kind of entrenched in the Grange for a little bit of a while. And we need to kind of stir the pot. I love stirring pots. I love stirring pots. I love implanting ideas, let other people run with it. Because sometimes they need, I'll be with you, because, you know, sometimes, Tricia, people just need permission. Just give them permission. Like right now, if you run back, and I told, I'm not going to mention names, I told the state president this week, I said, look, if you got a problem in your state, I'll be the bad guy. I'm never going to see him. If you don't like me, whatever, I'm not going to see you. I am not going to see you, and I will be the bad guy and help you through a problem. Because sometimes you can't do that in certain positions. And I get this. Been there, done that more than once. So sometimes just, you know, all you do, yell at you. We've all been yelled at before. Because if it's a proper cause and it's a good cause and it needs to be done, then do it. Yes, ma'am. And then Sharon.
I was just gonna say, we used to hash some of these things out at our meetings, but it was making our meetings go on too long. So we kind of came up with a little form. People don't have to fill it out, but it's just ideas. And if you have an activity, an event, community service thing, you know, you want to put on a luncheon, whatever, you gather your people and get all this information, and then if it's not going to cost the Grange anything and it's something we do, you can just go ahead and do it. If it's going to cost something, you can bring the whole thing to the meeting and say, you know, this committee of people has planned this, you know, we need $150 or whatever to get approval. But we just let people plan their things and get going. Some of them have grown into huge, amazing things.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How's things like that happen? Which Grange?
Deer Lagoon Grange in Washington.
Oh, yeah, you guys do a lot. I see you guys on Facebook all the time. Were you was you or Lopez Island that sold flower bulbs? Okay, I think it might have been the other one.
Yeah.
And what they did is they partnered with one of the local high schools, and if you bought flower bulbs from the Grange Hall, then the ag class at the high school planted them for you. Oh, that's a great idea. You kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And I forget what the high school got out of, what the kids got out of it. But, you know, they got community service hours. But do you know how many more flower bulbs they sold? Because now I don't have to plant them?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in. I am in.
Yeah.
I am in. Yeah. Sharon.
Well, that's a good idea. In this group, if there's anybody that has a really small Grange, like we do, but something it's Clifton Springs Grange in New York. We have a total of 18 members, 17 or 18, and 3 plus 1 juniors. But we've learned recently to really try things like, for example, our Easter egg hunt, which a number of years ago, somebody had that idea. Could we do it? There was only a few of us, whatever. And we put it out there and it has grown. We fill about 4,000 eggs. And we've begun, in the past, we've had the Interact group, the Youth Rotary group. Kids have volunteered to help us. We've had, this year we had partnered to do something with the YMCA. which I believe is the smallest YMCA in the United States, to fundraise for them. And so they came back and said, well, do you need help with your Easter egg hunt? So they helped. And so we're finding those ways, enjoying the chamber and making those connections. We got a ways to go yet when it comes to membership, but at least they know we're there, and even though it's a small group, we can do it. And when you see this year, I think post-pandemic, we had 250 kids and their parents that came that day to the park, and it's just a good thing.
Oh, it is, and it's grown. See, Trish, it's grown. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm gonna take off for 6, so I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I just wanna jump in. We've got a lot of stuff going on with our Battleborn National Grange here in Nevada. I encourage you to find our Facebook page. That's the easiest way to get to our website. It's linked on there. On our website, we have a page that is all of our volunteer opportunities and community service stuff that we're doing this year. And some of it is tied around our horse shows, but that's a need that's in our community. We didn't have those shows, so they're there. They're all highlighted, and the issue we dealt with this year was stagnant, it's the same 5 families showing up. So we decided to implement a reward system, like a tiered system. And if you got, 5 hours, you got this, and you got 10 hours, we reimbursed, an entry fee for a show. You had to pay for it and then bring us the receipt. And then we broke the age groups up, we had the peewees and the juniors, the intermediates and the seniors and the 19s and over. And the top volunteer for the year will get a belt buckle with their name on it saying top volunteer for 2023. And that little carrot has been a big dangle. And I have a form online that they can only the hours only count for the volunteer opportunities we have listed currently. We can add to them. But if they volunteer at the library, well, that's not something that's on our little list. Not that it can't be, but we have this list. And so they have to go on and fill out their volunteer hours and form, and they have to list who the supervisor for the event was. So I can then go back later in the year and go, hey, Pete, so-and-so said they came to a National Grange thing representing our Grange in Maryland. Were they there? And you can go, yes, Carolyn, they were there, but they were there for 3 hours, and I can make a note of that. So I encourage you to check it out. I'm sorry to duck it around.
No.
Great stuff. We do a ton of things.
Quick question.
Yes.
You folks, and I know High Desert give out a lot of belt buckles. A lot.
Amazing support.
Basically,
But we're also very thrifty.
well, right. So when you said belt buckles, somebody kind of perked up
Yep.
because that's a big deal in the West Coast, or belt buckles. Now, roughly, how much per?
Depends.
And it depends on, do you have one supplier?
We go through Molly's custom belt buckles. This time of year, starting about in September to December, they have a belt buckle that's their Black Friday belt buckle for the month, and you can get a $200 belt buckle for like $50. And we're talking like the 4-inchers. For my dairy goat for most of my shows, my big buckles, I try to, I don't always hit the sale because I like to order early because it takes it takes roughly 2.5 to 3 months to get the buckles, depending on the size of your order. So, plan ahead. But the regular size ones I get, our sponsorship for our buckle, our champions is $100. So I try and keep that under roughly about $80 plus shipping, and then the champion ribbon, and we break about even. Our peewee buckles, which are they're the smaller ones, they're like the 3 by 2 inchers. Those that we get for our dairy goat show for the reserve champions, and those are about $50 as well.
Okay, thanks.
So sign up for Molly's newsletter, you'll get the sale, and then the mentions when they're on sale. And they have sale stuff all year, but the big savings is the Black Friday stuff.
And
Thank you, everyone.
for those on the East Coast, on the West Coast, belt buckles are a big deal. And talk about advertising for your Grange. Because it'll say,
I've been wearing them all week.
yeah,
I use my belt buckle for cookies.
there you go. Yeah, or make cookies, one of the two. But again, it's another way to advertise your Grange. What time we got here? I don't want to get,
9:59.
no problem. Give me a call, email me, we'll talk. What time is it? I'm sorry.
9:59.
9:59. Uh-oh. Yes, sir.
May I see you project the screen, please?
What?
Yeah, I guess. Not mine. I'm not, well, hold on. We got to wait and make sure when the lecturer comes if she needs it. I don't know if she needs it or not. She's in right after me. So, any other questions, comments, talk? Yes, ma'am.
Do
We at National Grange, really small.
Now, which Grange?
Rathdrum, Idaho.
Okay.
And there's 3 of us veterans that go to the vet center and tie fishing flies.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's cool.
So we started at the wrong time of year, we realized. But we're putting out new flyers at the different businesses around town. We teach people how to tie fishing flies.
Fantastic.
And we have all of the equipment and stuff, but if you're gonna get into it, we ask you in about 5 months to buy your own stand. But we're close to Coeur d'Alene Lake.
Okay.
All the rivers, so people fly fish a lot.
Now you do this at the Veterans Center?
No, we're
Oh.
doing it at our Grange.
Your Grange Hall. Okay. Okay.
Our Grange Hall.
Okay.
We've had some Boy Scouts and grandpas come in, and they were regrouping, so we've got to contact them again.
Okay. So again,
I teach fly
in you know, Horry County in South Carolina, fly fishing is probably not going to work real well, but in your world, it does.
Yeah.
Again, you found a need and you filled it. I like it.
Well, they wanted something to do at night, and they're veterans, and they don't know what to do,
Hey,
and they're tired of sitting around.
I got you. I got you. Well, the lectures come in
30.
10:30. Oh, I got time. Heck, you kidding me? Anything else anyone wants to talk about, guys? We're
I know how you talk.
a lot. Any ideas anybody wants to share? If not, you want to sit here and have conversation. One thing I'd like to say, just so people aren't aware of this, but Dave is also the National Grange representative for the United Nations
Council of Organizations.
Council of Organizations, which we did not realize till Dave contacted Betsy. But we were one of the original organizations that, when that,
Wrote the charter for the United Nations.
right. So the Grange has a seat on that council.
Eleanor Roosevelt started this group 75 years ago last month, and we just had the anniversary at the UN in New York. And I'm hoping to get some folks to an event at the UN and possibly start a Grange event at the UN, which we would have the right to do, being an original person that worked on this opportunity.
So, you know, Grange is far reaching, folks.
Yeah, I would want to get in touch with you if they were curious. I might want to do it.
So take your time. You can turn that off. Have conversation amongst each other. I'm here. If you want to ask me questions, throw things at me, whatever.